I'm Damon Wood, a guitarist, vocalist, and leader of Denver-based music group Damon Wood's Harmonious Jump. My music is a variety of styles. We've had blues songs, reggae songs, progressive rock songs, funk songs, alt rock songs, you name it. I like to mix up the styles, sometimes even in the same song. I like to mix up songs. Sometimes there'll even be a time signature change in the middle of the song. I let the vibe of the music and the lyrical content take me where it wants to take me. I think my music is influenced by some of my favorites like Frank Zappa and Yes and Pink Floyd and Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead and blues and all kind of stuff like that. I like to talk about a wide variety of topics. Sometimes it's a silly song, sometimes it's a love song, sometimes it's a political song. So I like to mix it up in my music. So I decided to mess around on Logic Pro, the recording program, and I just kind of had my guitar going in there. I was messing around with some riffs. I set up like a minor key kind of vibe. I got into a little melody came to me within the blues scale, and I sort of used that as a kind of a verse starting point. Then I kind of went through the other chords in that key, came up with a little bit of chord changes, came up with like a little modulation, came up with a little jazzy chord part with some sliding octaves and things. So it kind of just flowed into a lot of different kind of parts, kind of different kind of styles, different feels. It's got a modulation when the guitar solo comes where it changes keys and then comes back to the original key later. Once I started writing lyrics for it, I realized that it wasn't really in the best key for my vocal range. So I changed keys with the whole thing and then redid the whole demo in a different key where that would be the best key for my vocal. I think it's interesting how there are so many distinctively different parts. I think there's a harmony vocal in there, which is always fun. Like I said, the modulation in the guitar solo is interesting. There's a backwards guitar solo in the second guitar solo in the song is like one of those things where you reverse the solo and it sounds kind of far out, like Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced or something. So I've tried to do a backwards guitar solo in each of my albums. So that was a thing that we threw in here that made it also interesting, I think. Well, it's really about kind of a dystopian society where it's like the musicians of this crumbling and corrupt town full of immorality and like the hypocrisy of religion and corporate news shills, just like everything is in their agenda for whoever's paying them that week. And it's like there's a band in the corner of all this and they just put out new songs and comment on what they see around them. That's basically what the Badlands Buskers is about. It's just me on this recording. These first few recordings at least that I'm doing, it's going to be just me. I'm playing all the instruments. I'm programming the drums and doing all the vocals and writing all the material myself. So drum programming is like you might start with a sample of a beat that seems, I always start with my own music and then I try to find kind of a drum sample that fits the vibe of that music. Then you can kind of create a template for the whole song and the arrangement of the song, how you'd want it to go. You're not going to keep those drums, but you're able to get something that helps the feel of the music you've already created and set up a timeline of the whole song. Then you got to go in and you got to find the drum sounds that you like. You got to get rid of a lot of the too much effects and things that they put on some of those sounds, and that's what makes them not sound like real drums. So you got to get it down to a real good sounding drum without a lot of hoo-ha all over it. And then you have to figure out exactly how all your placements of all your hi-hats, all your drums, all your kick snare, all your tom fills, how all of that's going to go. You can't just put it on the new click of your grid, or it'll just sound like a computer. So you got to figure out, how do I make these drums breathe? How do I make it you got to make sure that, like, if you want to really put the extra time in, you got to, every drum is a different velocity. It's never at the exact same spot on this grid. You got to think of how a drummer would play that. So you don't want to have your drummer doesn't have four hands, so there's no way he can be doing like three cymbals and a snare at the same time. So you try to make it real, and you try to, what's beautiful about it is you can really, as a songwriter, I can really make these drums accentuate each part of the song like exactly how I want it to. So it's been pretty fun. It is new for me, but it's been a lot of fun. Sometimes it's like you have a musical question that you want to answer. Like one time I wrote a song because a student of mine asked me about synthetic modes. So I kind of did some research into that, and I found this synthetic mode called the Super Locrian mode. And I plotted out all the chords and the notes of that mode, and I came up with a song that I call Loch Ness Monster, like Super Locrian mode. So sometimes it's like a musical question you want to answer, something you haven't done yet, something in an odd time signature. For instance, I borrowed a Frank Zappa technique where he would have a measure in one time signature, and then the next measure would be in a different time signature, and then the next measure might be in a different time signature than those two, and then you create a section, you create a melody to that, and it becomes very unique sounding because of all these time signature changes. But like any melody, you start to get used to it, and it starts to become a more normal thing. And I think sometimes, like I say, sometimes it's answering a question like that. The other thing is lyrically, sometimes it's a concept that's been going through your head that you want to kind of, it's like you want to answer a question about what's going on in your life or in society or something. And sometimes that leads you to come up with some lyrics that try to kind of express your feelings or get it off your chest, or maybe an artistic way of, or a poetic way of you saying the things you want to say, but you don't want to say them and just get in an argument or something. You want to say this in a thoughtful, thought-provoking, kind of intellectual, or grown-up way, artistic way. I think my strengths as a musician are experience, versatility, being able to learn new things quickly. Like, say, several of the groups that I was able to play in, I didn't know a lot about that music that we were going to play, but I was able to learn it quickly and adjust my style to fit into that. I think a lot of people have their own kind of baggage of, oh, this is what I do, and they're not going to probably make it in a band that's very different than what they've done unless they have that open-mindedness. So I think experience and versatility, I'm very kind of passionate about the stuff that I'm working on. I think I'm pretty creative and out of the box, so I think I can come up with some unique things. I think those are kind of my strengths. Our last release was in 2013, the Sirens and Pipers album. It wasn't too long after that I joined another band called Whitewater Ramble, which is kind of a newgrass, jamgrass, bluegrass rock type band. And they were working quite a lot, more than my band was, and I kind of needed more gigs, and I enjoyed those people and the band leader, Patrick Seitz. We'd been friends for a long time. And I'd never played bluegrass. I'd never played acoustic guitar on stage a lot. So I learned a whole lot from that experience. We ended up working on an album and a lot of different projects. There's a lot of stuff on like YouTube where we did a Led Zeppelin tribute concert. We did an album called Pseudonymous that came out in like 2019, I think. And so I did about 5 years with that band. That put my band on the side. So then kind of COVID hit, nobody was playing anymore. I kind of decided coming out of COVID to go back into my own stuff. And over COVID, I was able to kind of have a relook at composing. I learned a lot more about writing music on paper and kind of how to write solos over chord progressions, not just as a guitarist, but as a composer. And that helped me come up with more ideas for new instrumental pieces and things. And so I'd been writing a whole lot, and then a whole bunch of lyrics came. It's kind of like over COVID, it's like you have all these things you go through, and after it's all done, it's kind of like you can start to formulate how it affected you and what you think about it all in the end. You know, sometimes it might have been about, like for me, it'd be like getting angry and arguing with people, right? So something like that is on your mind, and you're like, how does that stuff get so heated and everything? How do you get so lost in all that negativity and stuff? So you'll try to express that in a song, you know, things like that. I do have many more releases planned. We have the next one already in the can. It'll come out like a month after this first one, 5 or 6 weeks maybe. And I do plan on having enough music in the next few months, at least for an EP, could lead to a full length album. Probably will. I would like to add just that it's very interesting the things we're learning when we're trying to get a new release prepared. We're trying to look at all our social media pages and things that I had neglected, things like where YouTube has two different band names because my band started as Harmonious Junk. It was more of a group thing, and then when there was none of those players left but me, and I keep it going. A couple years later, and there was another band that had almost the same name around here. So I ended up putting my name in front of the band's name, Damon Wood's Harmonious Junk. Then you have an album that's already been released without that name, and then you got to get all your ducks in a row, or everything's kind of crisscrossed and confused. So one of the things I found interesting is to try to get into this world of new releases. You got your Spotify, you got your YouTube, you got all the TikTok and all these different things. One of the things I've found that I think music fans could really help their favorite bands with is go on Spotify. If you got a favorite local band or some band you really like that's kind of just up and coming and doesn't have many followers, like go on their Spotify and like everything they have on there. Like put everything in there on your library. Share a song from their Spotify to your Facebook or Instagram or something. That starts like helping the algorithm that can help their music get seen more. And all of us kind of starting, even though I've had this band for 23 years and have 3 albums already, this is a completely new day, and we need us at this grassroots level. We need all the help we can get. So anytime you can share anything or like anything, it really helps us all. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you.